Hello everybody, it's Murray here and welcome back to my channel M Stewart Paintings. On today's acrylic painting tutorial we're going to paint this gorgeous sunset beach scene. I'm going to teach you how to mix realistic sunset colours and then how to blend your colours to create realism. I'm going to teach you how to use perspective and colour to create depths, to paint waves and faraway mountains. And then lastly, I'm going to teach you really easy techniques how to add sky holes and how to paint realistic palm trees to make your beach look very realistic, so you can paint this very easy sunset beach painting for beginners in acrylic paints. So let's get into it. So an easy tutorial today, you're going to need the following colours. Don't worry if you don't have these colours, I can show you how to make them. They are titanium white, cad yellow, pale rose blush, cad orange, rose pink, iris purple, navy blue, cerulean blue, cobalt blue, light grey and Payne's grey. Now I've got a square canvas and that I've used burnt sienna just to create an outline of a palm tree and a lovely sunset beach. We're going to have a beautiful sunset in the far background where we're going to teach you how to blend. We're going to have some cliff tops. We could have like Hawaii or something in the background, and we can have this beautiful ocean with a big crashing wave coming towards the beach and the shore. We're going to have some wet sand reflecting the sunlight and then a little bit of beach. And I'm going to teach you how to paint palm trees really easily using a flat brush. So I'll teach you how to do that. So if you'd like to copy down the outline, feel free to pause the video and you can copy it down at home, and then we'll get started. So like always, we always start from the back of a painting and work our way forward. So we're going to paint a really nice pastel sunset. I've got all the warm colours here on the left and all the cool colours on the right. So the first thing we're going to do is just going to make a really pale yellow, so you can use cad yellow and lots of white. I've got this fleshy tone which is basically pink and orange and yellow and some white to create a peach colour. It's called pale rose blush, but you can just make it using orange, yellow, pink and lots of white to make it really pastel. So all I'm doing, I've just created an off yellow. It's just got a tiny bit of that peach colour, lots of white and some yellow, just to create kind of like a Naples yellow. And all we're doing, we're trying to push these mountains back. So I'm using a very pale colour. And this could be where the sun has just gone down behind those mountains. And then as we move to the left, I'm just going to add more cad yellow. And then more white to make it nice and pastel. Add a tiny bit of orange. You see, you can make this peachy colour by just adding a tiny bit of orange. So a bit more yellow. So we want to make it really pastel. So I'm using lots of white in today's tutorial. There we go. So I'm just making it a shade darker as I move towards the left. So I'm going to have the sunlight sort of coming from the right and a little bit darker as I move towards the left. So I'm just going to brighten this area up to make it look more vibrant. And then I'll stop here and I'll get some more darker colours. Let's add a little bit more yellow and a little bit of orange. Now just be careful because look, orange and yellow are really overpowering, so you still need plenty of white. We want it really pastel, but we just want it a little shade darker than the previous colour. So you don't need much of orange and yellow to get this sort of peachy colour. Look. So still have a bit of white in there, we don't want it too strong. So if the sunlight's coming from this side's going to be a little shade darker. So we're just going to make this a little shade darker. And we'll go right down to where the ocean meets the sunset on the horizon. Now don't worry if you're painting scruffy at this moment and you go over your outline. We're literally just trying to make it blocked in. So don't worry if you paint over your outline. The great thing about acrylics, you can paint an outline and then just paint over it and no one will notice. And we can neaten anything up later on. So I'm just going to blend this area here in the middle, just so there's not so much a jump between the light and the dark. So I'm just creating X shapes with my brush and I'm just blending it really so gently. And then I'm going to add a tad more of orange, mix another colour, plenty of white, so we're getting that sort of peachy colour. So this colour here, So look, you don't have to buy it at home, you can just make it. It's just I'm lazy and I'm always painting, so it's easier for me to have colours on hand. So let's get that colour. And then at the bottom, just on the horizon, we're just going to make it a little bit more orange and just blend it. And this could be sort of low forming cloud. You get some beautiful clouds just sitting at the bottom of the horizon. And then now we've got that pastel colour of that yellow. We can create a sort of a glow just as the sun sets. So it's starting to look really, really pretty. We can even look, we can have some little low clouds just above the horizon. But we want them really subtle and we want them really pastel. And what that does is it pushes the sky really far off into the distance. So now we're going to mirror the sky onto the ocean surface. So all we're going to do is just think of a plane of glass or a mirror. We're just going to literally colour it in the same. Now you need to have quite thick paint because look, if you have watery paint, so I'm just going to mix some more of this colour back up. If you don't have thick paint, when you go over your burnt sienna outline, it won't take. So look, I'm just going over the top. Now that colour, look, is a little bit too dark, so there's a noticeable jump. So I'm just going to make it a little bit more yellow and a bit more pastel. So the great thing about acrylics, look, if you make a mistake, unlike oil paints, they're much more forgiving. You can just rejig things about and paint over areas. So look, if I go over my outline, it's not the end of the world. I can just paint it back in later. And you don't have to paint it burnt sienna if you don't want to. You can use a pencil or anything like that. I just prefer to use burnt sienna because it just gives me a guide where I'm going to put the shadows in. So we're just trying to create a mirror effect. Now we can't go from yellow and orange to blue in a setting sunset. So what we're going to do, because we've got these warm colours, we can't just jump to blue. We'll get green. So we're going to use pink as a kind of bridge to stop that. So the great thing about pinks and purples is you can make sort of, they're half warm, half cool. So if we use them, we can bridge a gap between the blues and the yellows and the oranges. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to mix pink, white, orange and a little bit of yellow. So pink, white, orange and a little bit of yellow and plenty of white to make it lovely and pastel. See that? And we'll get this nice tone. We're going to add a tiny bit of cool iris purple just to turn it a bit more beige. So it turns it a little bit grayer. We're still going to put loads of white in. Because it's a pastel sunset, we're going to use lots of white today. And we should get this look, this sort of in-between colour. It's not quite warm and it's not quite cool. And all we're going to do is we're just going to create sort of a bridge in the middle between this sort of yellowy orangey area. And when we're going to add the blues above it. And this will act as like a buffer so we don't get a green sky. And we're going to do the same on our ocean. And what it should do, once we start to blend it, it should trick your eyes and make it look very realistic. So I'm just going to start blending her. Look, I'm just creating my X shapes. I'm just going back and forth, rocking my brush. Just so it's nice and blended. And then we'll do the same here. We'll just start blending her. So as I say, don't worry if you get big jumps in colour. That's quite normal. But you can do this cheat. Look, you can clean your brush and go back to the previous colour. So we're just going to go back to the orange, not the pink. And look, you just go up and blend it. So take your time. You don't have to go as fast as this video. If you find that the video is too advanced, slow it down, pause it at home. It's your creation. Just do what's best for you. That's what these videos are for. And if you find the opposite, if you find this tutorial too easy and you want to speed me up, you can do that as well if you're more advanced. So look, all I'm doing, I'm taking the previous colour and I'm just blending all this area together. I don't want any noticeable jumps in colour. And I'm going to do the same on the ocean. I'm just going to make this a little bit brighter. just so it looks like a reflection from the sky. We should have this beautiful mirror effect. There we go. Look at that. That looks awesome, doesn't it? And it looks really, really nice. So now we can get darker because I think that sun has set. We want to get darker and more blue as we go up. So I've got this colour which I've got pre-mixed because again I'm a bit lazy, but I'm going to show you how to make it. All it is cerulean blue, cobalt blue and lots of white. So cerulean blue, cobalt blue and lots of white. And you can just add a dot of either pink or purple and you just get this colour. So cerulean blue, cobalt blue, lots of white to make it lovely and pastel. And you just add a dot of purple or a dot of pink and it will just make it a little bit more grey. Now all I'm going to do, I'm going to mix these two areas together. So I've got this warm pinky purple that we mixed earlier. And I've got this cool blue. And I'm adding lots of white and mixing the two together. So I've got a warm colour and a cool colour. And it should turn it quite grey. Can you see that? So again, by mixing the two areas together, you see blue, white and sort of orange creates sort of a greyish colour, like a grey blue. So by having some of that pink in the previous mix and orange and having lots of white, it should create this sort of pastel bluey grey. So again we're using this soft colour just so there's not so much a big jump. There we go. Now again, don't worry if you paint over your palm tree or your outline. We can go over that later. It's just for a guide. So let's just mix these two areas together. And we're going to do the same here on our ocean, on our wave. So we can even use this colour to colour in the froth of our wave as it comes crashing in. Because we don't want to use white. White will make it look really cartoony. So having this like off blue, look, it looks more realistic already, doesn't it? So let's just colour that in. And again, we'll just gently blend this area, just so there's not so much of a jump from the warms to the colds. That was me doing my rocking back and forth impression with my brush. So there we go. We just want everything really subtle. Now, if anyone has any ideas for tutorials, please put them in the comments below. So look, all I'm doing, I'm going back to my previous colour. I'm just remixing it because it's run out. So I'm just getting some of those warm colours and white. Yeah, if anyone has any ideas for tutorials, please put them in the comments below. I've had a bit of a break just for Christmas and just because I've been working so much teaching art. I've been having a little bit of a break, but I promise to do lots more videos in the 2024 coming up. But if there's anything anyone wants to learn, feel free to put ideas in the comments. I think I'm going to do a lot more different stuff coming up. I've just been doing the sunset seascapes again lately because that's what is most in demand on the channel. People tend to like them the most. But if there's anything anyone wants to learn, feel free. It's your channel. It's here to help you. So look, all I'm doing, I've just gone back to the previous colour, just like we did with the orange and the yellow, and I'm just blending it. So that's the secret. If you go from one colour to the next, clean your brush, go back to the previous colour, and then just go over the seam where the colours meet and just blend it. And then it should look seamless. And can you see from just blending it how realistic that looks now? We've not done anything skillful. We're not brilliant at drawing. We're not brilliant at anything technical. We're not using amazing paintbrushes or expensive paints. So anyone can do this at home. You just got to believe in yourself. Have confidence in yourself. It's just knowing techniques and knowing your tools. So there we go. Look, we've got this fantastic blend. So I've cleaned my brush. And all I've got is that blue that we made up earlier, which was cerulean blue, cobalt blue, lots of white, and a... So there you are, cerulean blue, cobalt blue, lots of white, and a dot of this purple, or a dot of pink if you want to make it lighter. And all I'm going to do now, I'm just going to block in this area. I'm going to speed up the video because there's nothing technical. All I'm literally doing is blocking in with a solid colour all the way up to the corners of the painting. The reason we use a darker colour at the top of the painting is to make you look towards the middle by having darker colours. So all I'm doing, I'm just using this lovely pastel blue. It's like a baby blue. And all I'm going to do is block in. As I say, don't worry if you kill your palm tree, we can fix it later. We just want a rough idea where it's going to be. And then while we've got that colour, I'm just going to put a little bit right at the edge where the shadow of the wave is getting casted, where it joins up to the beach. And a little bit underneath this crashing wave, just to create a little bit of shadow. And then all I'm going to do, because this is a bit harsh, if I put back the video to real speed, so if we put it back to the nice slower speed, I'm just going to go back to the previous colour, look, just like we did before. And I'm just going to blend this area, so there's not so much of a jump again. So we've got a hint of shadow, but again, it just looks more realistic. It's not as harsh. There we go. And then the same with the sky, look, it's got a big jump. So we've got this nice clean brush. We're just going to mix the two areas together to sort of create a bridge. Going to create our X shapes, and we're just going to blend it. And if you're like me, sometimes with acrylics, what you don't see in most tutorials and stuff, they can dry a bit streaky. So can you see the dark blue? Can you see lots of gaps in the canvas where I've missed? And can you see lots of brush marks on the dark blue where I've used watery paint and it's left scuffs and sort of thing? Well, to get rid of that, all you do is once it's blended, look, we've blended it all here. All we do is literally dry it, and you just go over the top with the same colour. So look, once we're nice and blended, taking my time, just blending around my tree. So as I say, don't worry about the outline. Sometimes it's best to go over it so you can get that nice blend. There we go. And then all the scuff marks above in that baby blue, we can just get thicker paint and we can put it back. So let's just neaten up the bottom here. Same thing, just want to make sure everything looks nice before we move on. But if you think we're painting the scene in what, roughly an hour in real time, that's pretty fast. So if you're keeping up at home, well done. So look, just by look, going over the top, look, you can get rid of any scuff marks, anything a bit raggedy. So again, I'm just going to speed up the footage. So if you're watching along at home, don't try to keep up. It's just me speeding it up. It's just to take those horrible scuff marks out. So please at home, if you're watching and you lose a bit of confidence because you think, why does mine look so scruffy? Just dry it with a hairdryer or let it air dry for 5-10 minutes and go over it again, and I promise it will look a lot more professional and a lot more solid. So there we go. So now we're going to put some really subtle clouds on. So let's get some pink and orange. And lots of white again, like usual. So pink and orange. So we've got lots of pink, orange and white. And I'm going to load up my brush. My background sky is now dry. There we go. And all we're going to do, we're just going to create some really, really pastel clouds, sort of joining these areas together. And what this does is, where you have a bit of a jump in the light blue and the dark blue, by using some clouds, it sort of masks this area and sort of bridges the two areas together. So I'm just creating some fluffy clouds with this pink. Again, I want them really, really subtle because I want to push this sky back into the distance. If I use darker colours or make them really harsh, it's going to bring them forward. So I don't want to do that. So you can barely see them. I'll zoom in for you a little bit in a minute so you can actually see them a bit close. So really, really soft. Just pushing down and gently blending. So if I zoom in a little bit so you can see. And I'm just going to add a tiny bit of purple, just a tiny bit. We can add a tiny bit of blue. I just want to make it a shade darker, just a shade as I go up. So as I go up more into the darker sky, I'm just matching that with the clouds. And I'm just having bits sort of break away from the main cloud, just to create sort of little fluffy marshmallows. There we go, sort of breaking off, look. And I'm going out quite diagonal. So what I always do is I always create my clouds quite flat at the bottom. And then as they go up in the sky, I just try to get them to move towards a corner. So look, I'm just breaking them off and they're going a bit diagonal towards the corner. Easy trick. Oh, I'd love to be on a tropical beach right now. It's torrential rain in here in London. It's freezing cold. Happy New Year. It's rubbish here in bloody London. So I'd love to be on a tropical beach, painting away. Oh, to live the dream. One day a YouTube. So look, and I'm just doing the same here. I've just got a little bit of a peach colour. And I'm just doing some orangey pink clouds just at the bottom here, just against that really pastel yellow. So by just having a slightly light background in the yellow, we can just add these darker shaded clouds. Just again, so it looks a little bit more realistic. Really subtle. A lot of this we're going to cover up with our palm tree. But again, it's just laying foundations. So again, if I zoom in a little bit better. So let's get some yellow and orange. White. Let's make some of that peachy colour. So dark yellowy orange. And look here, we can just have some really nice clouds just here on the horizon. Really subtle. Because remember, we're doing this in about an hour, but if you wanted to, you could spend hours doing this. Just making the horizon just a little bit lighter, so there's a bit of differentiation between the ocean and the sky. But as I say, I'm doing this literally out of my imagination, because I paint sunsets and seascapes all the time. I can just literally do them out my mind. But if you had a reference photo, you could always go really hyper detailed. I'm just adding a tiny more purple to my pink as we go up. So the same trick. I'm just adding a tiny bit more purple to my pink as we move up into the sky. So if you think as we move away, just like the dark blue, I want to make these clouds a shade darker just because they're getting less sunlight. So just think where the light source is and just try to match the colours. So if I show you my palette, look, it's just got a little bit more purple in my pink. I can even shade over these ones just to make them look a bit darker. So there we go. So look, so we go from dark to light. Think of yin and yang. We can even blend it, look, so there's not so much of a jump. Let's have some over here, just so when we put the tree in, it all sort of goes round it. And then I think there's a bit too much of a jump, so let's get some purple and pink, make it a little bit more vibrant. So look, purple and pink together are super vibrant, so unless you put the white in, it's going to look a bit cartoony. So let's add a little bit of that blue. So just by putting white in, you can get these lovely pastel colours. So if you want to paint pastel colours at home, just add plenty of white. I'm just going to suck up a little bit of grey. I'm using this light grey at the bottom. Light grey is fantastic, like brown, for sucking vibrancy out of your colour. So again, for making pastel colours that look really sort of wispy and pretty, by using light greys and lots of white, it just sort of mutes the colour. So if you're trying to get like a really soft pastel theme for your paintings, using a tiny bit of light grey just sort of sucks a little bit of the vibrancy out. It's a bit like an editor on your camera of your phone, where if you have like really bright neon colours, it looks a bit cartoony. So if you can use a little filter just to soften it, or light grey kind of does that. So there we go. So we've got this transition, but it's looking a bit scruffy. So all I'm going to do is I've mixed up some of the previous sky colour, and I'm just going to poke some holes in between the clouds. So I've got some of that peachy colour, and all I'm doing, look, I'm just putting some holes back into between the clouds. So the great thing is acrylics dry so quick. They're so easy to use. They're fantastic for beginners. So what you can do, if you have areas of your painting that look a bit ropey and a bit scruffy, you can always go back to them. It's not like oils where we have to sit here for a few days and wait for them to dry. We can literally just wait 5 minutes and let them dry and go over them. So all I'm trying to do is, by using a bit of that soft sort of peachy colour, I'm just going over the light blue. It's going to blend, it's going to absorb some of the colour below it, but all it's doing is creating a little bit of difference between the areas. It's just making the cloud stand out against it. But as I say, I still want them incredibly subtle. And look, you can see, look, if I lay the paint down flat, look how bright it looks in the top corner there, that orange and white. Look, it looks a lot brighter. So sometimes it's worth just giving it a rub with your finger, and that will sort of blend it. So look, when you lay the paint down, because it's wet, look, it looks a lot brighter. So just giving it a little rub with your finger, or just blending it gently with your brush, can take some of the harshness out of it, because we still want it to look really subtle. But I promise, all this blending and stuff is the hardest bit of the tutorial. All the rest of the tutorial is so easy, but this is the parts that make your painting look really realistic. So there we go. So there we go. So we've got this nice soft background, and now we're going to start putting all the detail on. And what that background, even though it looks a little bit scruffy, it should push it back and make it look hyper realistic. So I'm going to measure a straight line and use some painting tape, and we're going to paint the mountains in the background. So we're going to do them a little bit darker. So I've got this navy blue, which is a dark blue, and I'm going to add some purple and light grey to it. So watch, the grey sucks all the colour out. Can you see that? So this is what I was talking about earlier. If you want to suck a bit of colour out and push things back to make them look less bright, just use a little bit of light grey. And purple is a fantastic colour for making things look cool and far away. So by mixing blue, grey and purple, we can create this lovely sort of silhouette of a faraway mountain. And what we're going to do, because they could have some palm trees, this could be like Hawaii or somewhere like really tropical, we're going to deliberately make them bobbly. Look, so I'm going to make them a bit rugged at the top and bobbly, and that could imply sort of terrain and tropical plants and trees. So there we go. And that lovely tape should give us a nice straight edge, so we get a lovely flat line. That's all in line. There we go. Now while I've got that colour, I think that colour is perfect. Why don't we use that for the waves? So let's use that colour down here, and if we add a tiny bit more grey to it, just so it's a little less blue, we could use this for the waves. Look, this could be our crashing wave. So same colour, it's just grey, navy blue and purple, but just try use a little bit more of the light grey. To make a light grey, if you haven't got light grey at home, it's black, white and a little bit of cobalt blue. You can even add a tiny bit of orange just to warm it up. So black, white to create grey, add a little bit of cobalt blue to make it more bluey grey, and add a tiny bit of orange and it will make it warmer. So you don't have to spend money, because I know times are tough. So if you can save a bit of money, I hope that helps by mixing these paints and not necessarily buying them all. See, I shouldn't say these things because the painting companies aren't going to sponsor me. Right. And I'm just going to put a dark edge just here while the beach meets the wet sand. So you get that lovely sort of ridge as it rolls back. So there we go. Just so we've got a little bit of separation. And it's making it look more 3D. So if let's take off our tape. Now, I didn't measure mine right, and look, mine's a bit wonky, but I've deliberately left this in the video because I want to show you how easy it is to fix. So I use chalk to measure, so you can see little smudges of chalk, because then I don't get any horrible dirty lines, and especially on a pastel painting, I don't want to get any dirty lines. So I'm going to just mix some of the ocean colour, which was that peachy yellow, which was yellow, orange and white. And just freehand, look, I've got a steady hand. I'm just going to repaint in my ocean and just go up to the ridge. Now, if you don't feel comfortable doing it freehand, if you do make a mistake like me, you can always dry this area and put a bit of tape down and just do this till you get a straight line. I'm a pro, so I'm going to just do it freehand. But even me, look, I struggle a bit. It's really hard to paint a flat line. It really is. Your hands want to wiggle a bit. So don't beat yourself up if you have to use a bit of tape. I normally use tape. But I'm using a flat brush just because it makes it a lot easier just to get a flat line. All you want to do is just make that mountain look nice and flat, just sitting on the horizon. There we go. And then when we put the waves in, you should not notice, and it should look super realistic. So let's just blend that area. And while I've got that peachy colour, why not let's put a little hint of peach just on these waves, just so it looks like the sunlight is hitting the foam of the waves. So just a little tint. All these little extra bits just add to the realism. We could even have little bits of shimmer just in between the waves, just so it looks like light reflecting down. Here we go. So I'm going to use two different flat brushes. I've got one for the dark colours, for the waves and things, and I've got one for the lighter colours, rather than use the same brush. And just like I was saying, like by having dark colours and light colours, you can mix the two. So by adding orange, pink and white, and just adding it slightly to that dark bluey grey, just so we've kind of got an in-between. It's not too warm, it's not too cool. We've got an in-between colour. And adding a bit of white. What we're going to do, we're going to create some flat waves. So I've got this flat brush, and it's created like a beige colour. Can you see that? And what we're going to do, we're going to put in some divots, because there's a big jump, look, between this dark wave and this sort of ocean going out into the distance. So by creating this warmer colour, I can put little divots to look like waves, like little heads of waves, and they look like they're fading out into the distance. So all I'm doing, really softly, I've got this nice soft colour, it's still got plenty of white in it. I'm just creating little flat lines. Can you see that? To the best of I can. Look, if I smudge one, we can just fix it, don't worry. And what it should do is it should look like those waves fading out towards those mountains off into the sunset. So it's the same as the clouds. We want to make them really soft to look like they're disappearing. There we go. Now there's a bit of a jump between the dark blue crashing wave and these light faded away waves. So we're just going to get a little bit darker just a little bit more of the grey blue, and just here we're just going to link these two areas together. You see that? I've just made it a tad darker, and what that should do is just bring the two areas together. So just like the sky and all the blending underneath, there's not such a big jump. So you can see, and then look at that, when we step away from it, it should look hyper realistic. Look at this. So going back to my clean lighter brush, my flat brush, and we're going to mix some yellow and white. And all we're going to do, look, we're going to try to match the colours in the sky with the wet sand to make it look like a reflection. So let's just get some yellow and white first. Lay down that colour first, like we did first. And then we're going to get some of the peach colour. So we're going to add a little bit more of the orangey, orange and white and yellow together. So we try and make that peachy colour. So let's mix all them together. We're just trying to mirror the sky. So let's have that orange coming in. Now I think this left hand corner of this wet sand would be a bit darker, wouldn't it? Because you've got A, the tree above it, and B, it's furthest from the sun. So if you imagine the right hand side is where the sun is. So let's just darken this up with a bit more orange. So let's just make this a little bit more orange just so it stands out a little bit more. And then let's just make this left corner a little bit darker. So we can add, look, we can go back to our sort of colours. We can add more pink. That'll make it darker, look. And then as we move to the left, why don't we add either some blue or some purple? And that should make it darker. So look, go to the cooler colours on the opposite side. So by adding a little bit of purple, look, we're getting cooler, more beige. I think it's still a little bit too light. It's going to be a lot cooler, isn't it? So let's get a little bit of the blue. Turn it a bit more grey, look, just by adding a little bit more blue. A good rule of thumb is to stand away from your painting. So I get up and I walk away. So I'm standing up right now, just to see things from afar. So look, by adding more blue, just really gently, look, we'll just blend it. That looks better, doesn't it? So it sort of matches all the shadows. Well, hey, so let's do the beach. So let's paint the beach now. So that's going to be dark because it's far away. So let's get some of our light grey. And let's get some pink. So light grey and pink to turn it a little bit warmer. And a little bit of the navy blue, just a tad. So light grey, pink and navy blue. And let's just block her in. Now the reason we're doing the sand quite dark is because if you imagine the sun is far off behind those mountains, it's going to be kind of silhouetted, but we don't want to make it black or anything because it'll kind of be too harsh. So what we're going to do is make it sort of a grey. We still want this painting to be very nice and pastel, but acrylics always dry a little bit darker, so just be aware of that. So we're going to make a nice sharp line, look here, just so there's a big separation between the really sharp wet sand and this beach. And then I think once we've done this sort of gap here, I think it's still a little bit too light. So why not, let's add a little bit more navy blue. So look, navy blue and purple just makes things look cooler and darker. Still got grey in it. So if we want to add shadow, we can add a little bit more cooler colours. So it's kind of a similar colour to that mountain in the distance. And I'm just going to put some divots in the sand, just so it looks like footprints and texture. I'm just going to darken up my corners as well and the very bottom of the painting. And then I'm going to get the opposite. I'm going to get a warmer colour that we just used for the blending. I'm just going to put some highlights. So all I'm doing, I'm just trying to think where the sun would be striking sort of the little sand dunes, and where the opposite, where there'd be areas of shadow, just to try and give it a 3D effect. And then you can use this colour, which is Payne's Grey, which is a very dark grey. So again, it's just a very dark grey. It's just got more black in it than it has white. And again, I can make these corners a lot sharper and a lot darker. I want to sign it in this left-hand corner, so I need a dark colour to have my signature shine up against it. And using my flat brush, because it's got this really sort of razor sharp edge, I can go along and just separate this area just to create a little shadow and put some more harsher divots. And I can even make the very bottom of the painting framed, so when she's in a frame she'll look much more pretty. So let's darken up this left hand corner because I want to sign it here. And then I'm just going to get some of that blue and white and some of that orange and white. I'm just going to mix the two just to make a warm grey. And I'm just going to put some of these highlights back in just to complement one another. So think of yin and yang, you've got the really dark shadows, but then we've also got the really nice warm highlights. And then while I'm zoomed in, we're just going to put some finishing touches on it before we do our palm tree. I'm going to get some of that light blue, which was cerulean blue, cobalt blue and white. I'm going to add a lot more white to make it a very pastel blue. And all I'm going to do, I'm just going to create some froth. I'm not going to do a lot of detail because I want this tutorial to be for beginners. So I don't want to make it too complicated. But I'm just going to add with a fine liner just some froth with this light pastel blue. And these are just areas of the wave. You know when you get lots of spray and you get lots of churn, you have lots of bubbles and it sort of hangs over. By deliberately just making it look a little bit more scruffy, it just makes it look more realistic, where you have this sort of foam coming off on the edges. I kind of just do little curls. So look, I just sort of curl my brush around, create little circles, and it just kind of makes the teeth of these waves, look, just sort of like hang over, make it look more scruffy. Easy little trick. I'm still leaving a little bit of that orange at the top just so it looks like it's got a bit of a highlight. But I just want to create some spray. And then while we've got that colour, why not use it once we've done our waves and we're happy with them. So we've got this sort of barrel crashing wave now. Let's have a little bit of spray just at the top. Why don't we use that colour just to go around the edge and create the sort of foamy edge that you get when the water of the ocean hits the sand? You get this lovely sort of bubbly edge, don't you? So if we just use a fine liner and we just use this little white and blue, we can just create a little nice sharp edge. Again, just going to do it really subtly. Just take your time. Just let it fade out. And if you want, you can always go over it once or twice if you want. I'm not going to bother, but if you want it to stand out more, just go over it again once or twice. And then we're just going to have some zigzags just coming out just to create some bubbles, some froth. Again, really subtle. And it just ties the area together. Just so it looks like the waves crashing into the shore. There we go. Hooray! So we've got this beautiful wave, we've got this pushback mountain, we've got our sunset. So let's tie the whole thing together and teach you all how to paint palm trees. So we're going to use this Payne's Grey, this very dark grey, and we're going to create a silhouette. Now this tree is going to be hanging over and it's going to be closer than all this background, so it's going to stand out. So if I get this paintbrush, look, if this is the tree, so to speak, it's almost going to be silhouetted against this really bright background. So what we're going to do, we're going to use a flat brush with this sharp edge. We're going to get our Payne's grey and we're going to load up both sides of the brush. So we've got a nice coat of paint on either side of the brush, you see. And then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the trunk. So what we're going to do, we're going to create this steady line. We want the trunk to be fatter at the bottom than at the top. So on the left hand side we want it to be fatter. So I'm just going to make it fatter here as it goes out of the painting. Then the top. So look, fatter here than at the top. And that should create the tree trunk. And then from the tree, it's much easier to do a stem. So you do a stem of a leaf, look, a big line, and then you come down. So the first one, I'm going to show you, my hand's going to be in the way, but when I move my hand and we do the next one at an angle, you should be able to see it really, really easy. So all we do is we create the sort of stem and then we create the leaves hanging down. So look, if I show you on this one, this should be really easy to follow. Look, we do the stem first and then we do the leaves, look, coming down using that sharp edge of the brush. And the brush does 99% of the work for you. So do the stem first and then look, use that sharp edge to create teeths of the leaf and you should create a palm leaf. Really, really easy. So you do the stem and then you come down. Obviously my hand's in the way and it should create the little hanging bits of the leaf. Now if you're very nervous about doing this, if you've dried your painting and you have some baby wipes handy, if you make a mistake you can always wipe away the Payne's grey and your lovely painting will still be underneath. And don't worry about, see, like the burnt sienna and things shining through. I'm going to teach you a way to get rid of all that in a minute and make your trees look even more realistic. So look, do the stem of the leaf first, look, big stem, and then create these teeth just using that brush, look, coming down, look, flicking, look, coming down, and using that really sharp edge. See how easy that is? So there we go. Let's create some sort of funky bits coming out of the top. And then I can't really turn my arm backwards, but you should be able to see. Look, there we go. So let's create some of these teeth coming down. It's so easy. Once you know how, I promise you. So what we're doing, we're just trying to create the general shape. And then what you can do is you can get the brush and push down really hard, like I'm doing, and create bigger, thicker chunks now. So now once you know where you want everything to be, look, I can really push down with that brush and create thicker leaves. Because some areas are going to be really shaded when you do have thicker leaves, and some areas are going to have like really thin, spindly branches. So it's just trying to create a sort of a mixture between the two. Our tree's pretty big, but I kind of want that just to teach you. You don't have to do it that big if you don't want to, if you don't want to cover up all your sunset. But I think it's, if I do a really big one, it's good to sort of teach you. So there we go, it's got its spiky top. So look, if I want to thicken areas up, I can just push really hard. And I can also do this trick, where I can make all the branches look really, really spindly by coming back and just taking my time and just elongating all the leaves. So all I'm doing, I'm just stretching the leaves out so the branches look really spindly. If you don't want to use a flat brush, if you find that difficult, you could use a really sharp fine liner. But all I'm doing, I'm just making all the leaves really hang down. So I'm just making all those spindles look extra long, and they just look much more realistic. Look, same with the top. Look, I'm just going to make them really thin and make them look so much more realistic. So when you're happy with the overall shape of your tree, this is a fantastic trick where once it's dry, because you don't want to mix black and blue, is mix some of your background sky up and poke holes in your tree. So all I'm doing is I'm getting some blue and I'm just poking little holes in and amongst my leaves to change the shape of my tree and make it look much more realistic. So as I say, I paint all the time. I'm just doing this from my imagination. But if you struggle, I presume you can just go on Google and just get reference photos of palm trees. So you can do this as detailed as you like at home. But this is a really, really easy way. Look, I'm just getting some of this baby blue and I'm just poking holes. And if there's any of that burnt sienna outline that I've missed, I can just cover it up. So there's nothing you can't paint over or fix. If you don't like the shape of things, you can always change it. But it looks much more pretty now, look. So don't beat yourself up if you make a mistake at home. One of my favourite ever quotes is, every master was once a beginner. So always think of that. No one starts off excellent at anything. They have to work at it. So always try your best, and if you make a mistake, don't worry, don't beat yourself up. So look, now I've got some of those holes in. I'm just thickening up areas with my big brush, just making some areas chunky to have dark silhouette, some areas nice and thin and spindly. So just get it how you want it, how you're comfortable with it. It's your creation. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching along at home. The channel, I think, hit 17,000 subscribers over the Christmas. So thank you so much. I hope everyone had a fantastic Christmas as well. If you all celebrate at home. And if you don't, I hope you have lovely time off with your family and got some holiday and well-needed rest. And then just to finish her off, I'm just putting back some of the highlights on my wave. I'm just putting a little bit of yellow and white. Our palm tree is looking fantastic now. And I'm just putting some yellow and white, just hints of it on my sea foam, just to make it pop. There we go. Just little highlights, just to make the difference. If there's anything you want to fix or go over, you want to darken things up or lighten things up, the end is the time to do it. It's when the painting all comes together. And then I've put her on a lovely easel and I've signed her in the bottom left hand corner. So you've learned how to do a fantastic easy acrylic painting of a sunset beach. You've got this blended background that we've mirrored in the ocean and in the sky. You've learned how to gradually transition from colours using blending, and then how to put these beautiful sunset clouds, how to paint sunset clouds and acrylics over the top. You've got darkened corners to get you to look towards the middle. You've learned how to push back your mountains using colour to create distance, and how to use a silhouette to bring things forward. You've learned how to paint waves in acrylic paints and how to create shadows and highlights on them, and then on your wet sand, how to paint a beach, and then lastly, how to paint a beautiful palm tree for beginners. Really, really easy, using a flat brush and then poking sky holes in it to create realism. So I hope you have a fantastic New Year's, everyone. I hope 2024 is a great year for all of you and your families. And I hope you enjoyed the channel, and I hope you're enjoying the painting tutorials. I promise to make lots more in 2024 for all you guys at home. So like and subscribe, and happy painting, everyone. Take care of yourselves. See you soon. Bye.